play Mafia Wars? Mafia Wars, come on. Yeah. So this is the guy. So Roger, Dicky, he came in yesterday from New York. His flight was delayed. Here he is. He's a serial entrepreneur.
Thank you, and thanks to all you guys. It's really wonderful to be here. We actually most of the delegation got in. I think on Thursday night. I got in Friday night because I was connecting through JFK in New York, which is not a good idea right now given all the weather. I think there was on top of the Hurricane Sandy fallout, there was a blizzard, and yeah, I was stuck there for 28 hours or so. So good to finally be here with you guys. We're all really enjoying it so far. So to finish off my background briefly, I was since a very young age I was an engineer. I've always considered myself an engineer. I have a technology background. So I worked on a range of projects from a young age. Anything from 3D game engines to tinkering around with digital circuit design to making websites to compilers, sort of all over the map. And I always saw myself as a builder. I always liked to build things. And that actually, that didn't really blossom into entrepreneurship until a later age. Until I was around 24 or so. I started my first company while living in Austin, Texas. So you guys may feel isolated being in Jordan. Well, I can tell you, in 2006 in Texas, there was no startup ecosystem. Okay, so I feel your pain. I know where you're coming from, and actually, you guys, I think right now have a much stronger and more vibrant startup ecosystem, maybe even than Austin, Texas has right now, today. I mean, they've got a few organizations. It's kind of getting started. They have something called the Capital Factory, because Austin is the capital of Texas. So a little bit of a play on words there. But you know, for all intents and purposes, it's very, very nascent. So you guys actually have a lot of opportunity here, and organizations like this are great. I don't want to. I'll cover background, finish that off really quickly, and then I want to leave you with 3 thoughts before we start the panel. So I started this business in Austin, Texas. Our first business failed, actually. It's always nice to get your first failure out of the way early in your career, because you will have one. We were trying to do it was like a local tutoring marketplace. We were connecting like college students who wanted to make extra money with high school students who wanted to learn something. So that failed after 7 months. We did all sorts of stupid stuff. Like, I think we took like a month trying to figure out the name of the company. Just really dumb stuff like that. You know, I think a lot of entrepreneurs make the mistake of trying to do all the easy stuff first. Like, oh, let's print out a bunch of T-shirts with our company name on them, and let's go get a web domain, and let's like tinker around with the user interface before actually proving whether or not your business model really works or whether you can get customers. So the first thing I encourage you to do is do the hard stuff first, for sure, right? So that failed, and then a few months later, I was kind of disheartened, and I thought, you know, maybe entrepreneurship isn't for me, because I understand technology. I can build anything in the world, but I don't understand marketing. So then, you know, sure enough, the Facebook platform came around, and the interesting thing about Facebook is when you're building software on Facebook, you're building social software. So the marketing is fundamentally built into the product. No longer do you have the marketing division and the product division. It's actually the same thing. I remember early on at Zynga, Mark Pincus, who's an awesome guy. I loved working with Mark. He always had trouble. I think the company had a little bit of trouble figuring out where marketing fit in, because the product team was doing the marketing. If you look at a pie chart for where users came in from, you have cross promotion from other games, and you have organic traffic. The users were free; they were almost all free. So that was a big learning for me. Was sort of, okay, I can start to build these apps, and we built about 15 or 16 apps before we made our first game, and we can get users for free on these apps, and we can build in the marketing. We don't need a marketing team. So our first game that really took off was called Dope Wars. Have any of you heard of Dope Wars? No. Okay. Did any of you play Dope Wars on Facebook? Major bonus points for that. Anybody? No. Okay. We only had like 1 million users or so. It was a small business relative to what Zynga did later. We had about 1 million users. We were making about $250,000 a month. So much much less than most Zynga games, but nice for business I was basically running myself. So after about 7 months of that, sold to Zynga, joined, and then the first thing I did was make Mafia Wars. So I did a lot with sort of the crime vertical on Facebook. And then we moved on after that to Fishville, and I ran some other teams, and then I helped out in China, India, Japan, before leaving after 3.5 years. So pretty much, to bring it up to today, about, in the year after I left Zynga, I did a lot of angel investing. I'm in about 30 companies as an angel investor. I joined several advisory boards. I'm on about 7 advisory boards. And I like to help out with a lot of local startup incubators. So just want to give you guys some context. So the few pieces of advice I want to leave you with. One, never give up. So this is what sets you apart from other folks. Is that I forget who said this. I think it was the founder of the Segway. He said being an entrepreneur is like something like eating glass and staring death in the face, something like that. Like, it can feel that difficult. I remember when our 15th or 16th Facebook app failed. That was a very, very difficult thing for us. But the key was that we kept going and we eventually found something that works. So the practical takeaway from that is tell your team and tell yourself that you may fail 10 times, but you have to be ready for that. Don't tell your team, hey guys, what we're doing right now, it's guaranteed to work. You might want to say that as a leader. You might want to say that and sound really inspiring, but the problem with that is you set people up to be very disappointed. You have to set yourself up, and you have to set your employees up to be very resilient to failure. That's very important. Because especially in a market like this, it's a new market. There's a lot of experimentation. It's not mature, so nothing's proven. Second piece of advice. Probably not a lot of you are actual angel investors, but investing is very valuable. So I learned a lot as an angel investor. I learned a lot about how to be an entrepreneur, about what to do and what not to do. So I would encourage you to start investing. When you read TechCrunch, when you read these other tech blogs, open up a spreadsheet. Go to Google Spreadsheets, create a spreadsheet, share it with your friends, put in a bunch of companies, and invest. Say, oh, I put 100K into Airbnb. I put 500K into Facebook, whatever it is. And then look back at that spreadsheet a year later, 2 years later, see how you did. If you go through this sort of this investing exercise, it can really help you think about companies at a higher level. And that's something I encourage everyone to do. The third and last piece of advice I'll give you is being an advisor can be extremely valuable. So similar to what Charlie said, advising is a very enriching experience. And since you guys are all part of forming this really amazing, really interesting new Jordanian ecosystem, since it's new, there aren't a lot of advisors you have who are more experienced. So you have to advise each other. So maybe before you leave today, find meet a couple of people and join their advisory board. Maybe it's even an informal advisory board. Get on the phone with them once a month. See how you can help out with what they're doing. Another possible action item is write down on a piece of paper right now the 2 or 3 biggest things, the 2 or 3 biggest questions you have about your startup, the 2 or 3 biggest problems, and then pass that to a neighbor. And then at the end of this whole talk, ask your neighbor, hey, did you learn anything at this session that you think could be helpful for my business? So that can kind of give you some context to think about the talk around. So that's an idea, is that you start by having one advisor right now. So anyways, hope that's helpful and look forward to talking more.